Hello, welcome back to the Mover, Gonky, and now TBear show.
Hello,
Our
everyone.
Our special guest host tonight, TBear.
Legend.
Hey,
the
glad
man,
to be here.
the myth, the legend, the man who got me my start in aviation.
The man who told Mover yes.
Yeah.
The start of
Also
the make
one
them
that
tell you
told
no.
me this YouTube thing would never work.
Well, you were right in some ways. I mean, in some ways, you were correct. It's just
Yes.
contextual.
Face for radio.
He's the man that I called one day and said, "Hey, I want to be a fighter pilot." And that was
Crickets.
and then you said, "Call back another time." And I kept calling back. And when I finally talked to you, you were like, "No, you never called me back." And I said, "You were on vacation." And you're like, "It's called TDY." That was TDY.
Until you called me back in 6 months because you were like, what?
Junior in college.
Graduation.
Yeah, I was a junior in college.
And then I sent the guy out to find you in the gym.
Yeah. Yep. And here we are 20 years later.
Yeah.
20 years, dude. It's 20 years later. 2003.
Old,
yeah.
Who's old? Me, TBear, or you? I think all of us are.
All of us, dude.
We're all old.
That's right.
Yeah. We're all old. Welcome back. We've got a busy show today. So let's get started. Oh, Aaron's already. It's not Monday without Mover and Gonky.
Thanks, Aaron.
Anyway, Gonky, how you been, man? You've been driving a lot today.
Oh yeah, I'm great, man.
Did you get caught in the super fog?
You know what? We did a little bit. My son was like, "Daddy, what's wrong with the sky?" I don't know.
It's called New Orleans. It's just how
Temperature and the dew point met, and something weird
No,
happened.
there's wildfires.
Was that what it was?
Marsh fires. Yeah, they combined and created this super thing. A lot of I-55 is now like temporarily shut down because it was a horrible crash out there. So really, really bad stuff. But in other news, or in aviation news today, we're going to start out talking about some breaking news. The Alaska Horizon jump seater.
Wild.
Douglas, take it away.
Yeah, this is how not to act when you're in the cockpit, I guess. The crew of a Horizon Airlines regional jet, it was an Embraer 175, diverted to Portland. They were en route from Everett, and they had a Alaska Airlines pilot, Joseph D. Emerson, was charged with 83 counts of attempted murder and endangering an aircraft. So it's a total of 166 felonies.
Wow.
For messing with the throttles. They said, we've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's subdued. A pilot told aircraft traffic controllers, according to audio recorded by Live ATC, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and parked.
We have that audio. We'll play that here in a second.
Later statement, Alaska Air said that unsuccessfully attempted to disrupt the operation of the engines before the captain and first officer responded. Engine power was not lost, and the crew secured the aircraft without incident. Do you guys have a 3-ring binder for that?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Don't let your intrusive thoughts win. All right, so this is the audio from Live ATC, I believe. Let's play and hope for the best.
Right, 159, when able, you could let me know the threat level.
That's the right level. Midnight.
0571. Okay, I'll just give you a heads up. We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's the dude. Other than that, yeah, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and park. Horizon Air 2059, Roger. You can contact that point on approach now on 118.1.
Okay. They're going to switch and we're going to lose that. So let's answer some questions from the Twitter because people, like I've already seen the comments and they're like, why is there somebody in the jump seat? So without the jump seat, we'd never get to work. Those of us that commute, we need the jump seat. Jump seat's an important thing. And that's why I hope there's no knee-jerk reaction to this, because this is the first incident since the FedEx flight 705, if you recall, in April of 1994, where 3 crew members in the cockpit, Captain David G. Sanders, who had worked for FedEx for 20 years, was in the Navy, served during the Vietnam War, Jim Tucker, and Andy Peterson, and also there's a flight engineer. Basically, a Callaway who was jump seating tried to attack, and they ended up rolling upside down almost 140 degrees while attempting to maintain visual reference. And then it was a pretty big deal, a fight for survival in this DC-10 cockpit. So that's the first one since then. Doug, does it say, because I've now heard conflicting things. The thing I read was that he tried to pull the fire handles, not just shut the engines down like manually, but actually he wasn't just messing with throttles or ignition. He actually tried to get to the fire handles for the engines, because it's a Embraer, I think 175. And that's a bad thing, even more so than just normally shutting the engine down, because TBear, you and I were talking about this before. When you pull a fire handle, it shuts off everything in that engine because you want to stop the burning, right?
Right.
It's a one-way door.
Yeah. So
you can't unpull that.
well, you can. It's when you pop the bottle, whether it'll keep running. So it sounds like they didn't pop the bottle and the engine never shut down, or at least according to this article. But so for those that don't know what a jump seater is and how this works, pilots, I think, feds, Secret Service, there's like a whole list of people that are eligible, dispatchers and stuff, employees are screened and given access to this jump seat system. And with that, you're then able to list for a jump seat, go to the counter and say, hey, I'd like a seat. And usually you try to get a seat in the back because it's more comfortable, but every now and then they put you in the front because the flight's full or whatever. So you are an aviator of some sort or qualified to be there and screened, and they put you in the cockpit and you are there. You're not part of the crew per se, but you are sitting in the flight deck. That's a very standard practice. Pilots do it all the time. That's how a lot of pilots get to work, get home from work, especially if they don't live where they're based. It is not unusual to have somebody in the cockpit with you. It could be a Fed. You never know. So the screening is just like any other pilot. There's nothing unique to it, but it's the same that the person flying your aircraft might have. In fact, I think this pilot, from what I read, was an Alaska Airlines pilot on his way to San Francisco to go begin a trip before he started. So it wasn't like just a rando that was a passenger, like, hey, we ran out of space back there. You want to go sit up front with the big boys? No, it's an actual jump seater that's qualified to do that. And that is a system that's been in place for a long time. And luckily we have 2 pilots, and they were able to subdue him, stop him, and get him out of the cockpit. It's funny, Doug, they say how many people were on board?
I don't have that in front of me. But
how many felonies did they charge him with?
They charged him with 83. But
I
my
think
curiosity is, did they charge him for a felony against himself? Like, did they include him in the number of the attempted murdered?
I'll pursue that. I was looking for more information about the fuel. I did find something.
I mean, that sounds about right. 175 is.
They said some residual fuel remained in the line, and a quick reaction of our crew to reset the handles restored full fuel flow and prevented fuel starvation.
So they did pull. They did pull the handle. Yeah, he pulled the fire handle. So there you go. Just luckily, TBear, you know more about engines than anybody. How does this work?
How did these work?
Well, I mean, if you push it back in, it should restore everything. But we don't normally do that, because if you have a fire and you pull the fire handle, fire FOD or frozen, you don't restart. So it's not a common event. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I wonder if it was an intrusive thoughts thing, like you're sitting there and he, just decided to pull the handle. It's hard for me to believe that was a way that he wanted to end everybody. It's just, it's weird. You know, there's a lot of psychosis going on, whether it's some level of intrusive thoughts, some level of I want everybody to not make it or what. I don't know. Gonky, what do you think, man?
I mean, that's I think everybody can agree that's pretty insane to do that. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, like, was he trying to, like, you know, get up and like adjust his seat and he accidentally grabbed the, I don't know. I've never been inside the cockpit of a 175, so I'm not, you know, exactly sure.
80 passengers.
Yeah, so there it is.
2 pilots and 2 flight attendants. So they didn't even charge him with attempted murder on one of the flight attendants or one of the pilots. They're 1 short.
I don't know.
Or is he one of the 80 passengers?
Yeah, it's probably.
So then that's -1. Or where they're, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I
Dude, I don't know. That's pretty insane. I mean, I mean, you know, there's a like 2-person policy at all times in the cockpit nowadays. You know, like they don't let just one person ever in there, probably for reasons a lot like this. But like, I just can't imagine somebody coming in. I mean, the guy's on the way to work, right? I mean, you'd think if he was on the way home, it's like, man, maybe he's getting fired or something and he's having a mental breakdown.
Although going to work is where I'm the most sad. Coming home is where I'm the happiest.
Yeah. Mover never has any thoughts on the way to work.
For legal reasons, this is a joke. I was just kidding, guys.
Yellow light.
Yeah, for sure. Gonky, we're 2 for 2 in the last 2 weeks. But I will say this is a pitch for mental health in aviation. I think this is another indicator that we don't take it seriously enough, and there are too many barriers to allow something to get to this point. Now, we obviously don't know the full scope of what happened and the details and stuff, but I do think there's some argument to be made that the knee-jerk reaction to this needs to be, we need to focus more on getting people the help they need so it doesn't get to this point, versus saying, well, you know, we're going to make no cockpit jump seaters, or we're going to start screening and stuff like that. You know, we don't want to do a German wings reaction. We want to see what got him to this point and how do we help the next person not get to that point while maintaining their career.
I mean, to be honest, he's lucky. I mean, he's lucky he didn't get shot. I mean, you know, they have the FFDO program, and I mean, you guys all know in the cockpit, it's serious business. I mean, and due to the you know, the past, like we all take that super seriously. You don't, I mean,
well, but did he try to get help? Because, I mean, like it or not, the aviation and mental health do not jive very well. People either don't get help or are afraid if they do get help, then something will happen. So is this a situation that could have been avoided by a better understanding of mental health to prevent people from doing crazy, stupid things that almost kill 83.5 people?
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, TBear? I know this is you're not an airline guy, but you know about people.
Yeah, and obviously something's wrong with the guy. I mean, the first thing I think about, does he have a brain tumor? You know, I mean, this is so far off the level of normal. Or, you know, they're just depressed people. And you're right, nobody's going to try to get if you're an airline pilot, you're going to be very hesitant to go out and try to get some mental health help. And I'll just point out something. I just got off the phone this afternoon with a friend of mine, got hired by an airline. I don't remember the exact date. I'll make something up. The 6th of September. And on the 7th of September, he received a letter from the FAA revoking his medical. And
really?
Because he's 80% VA disability and 30% of it is PTSD, which he does no meds, no treatment, no nothing. But the FAA went and yanked his medical the day after he got hired by an airline.
And this is what I would hope that cooler heads prevail, and that we do a deep dive, consult the experts, and don't just say, well, now we even need to go harsher on people that have gotten help and say that anybody that's ever had any kind of issues or, would now be grounded going forward and won't get their medical. Like, I don't want it to the pendulum to swing to the point we're so conservative that, because it's going to get worse. Because what happens when you can't report it? You hide it. And what happens when you hide it? This.
Yep.
This is what happens when you hide stuff. It boils over, whether it was, like I said, whether it was a one-off deal or he was trying to kill everybody or whatever. We're fortunate that this is all the discussion is right now.
I'd be surprised if, like, after they do the deep dive, I'd be surprised if there wasn't at least some warning signs. I mean, like the German wings thing, right? They dove into that and there was definitely some signs, but I don't know. Can't speculate, won't speculate, but it's a good thing. There's a happy ending. The guys were able to keep the motors going, land, nobody got hurt. And,
That's
hey,
amazing.
the guy's arrested, but like, I mean, he's going to get help now,
Well,
I mean,
and good point, Gonky. Kudos to the crew.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
dude, what's the 2 rules about being a pilot or a fighter pilot? Look good, sound good on the radio.
Good.
They sounded good on the radio. I mean,
Look
how
good
cool
break.
did that guy say, like, hey, we got this. It's handled. We're gonna need to divert.
Yeah.
Probably still need to get paid. Yeah.
It's like, but I'm
Bashed his
okay.
head in with the crash axe that's behind. I'm like, oh boy. I mean,
Yeah.
Whatever. Sean says Mover would have Krav Maga his nug.
Yeah.
Chop. Karate him. All right, moving on. This is TBear's forte. A crop duster nearly hits the semi-truck.
It's a crazy video.
Douglas, hit it.
I was about to ask, you got that one or do I have that one? Here
You
we
got
go.
that one.
This is wild.
Hey, just doing his job right there.
Yeah. Now, TBear, you fly under wires a lot.
Yeah,
And
we do.
Some may find this distressing. Little late.
Yeah, we do. This so I know a little bit about this one. The guy was out of Arkansas and he was up in the Midwest on what we call the corn run. And there's every year there's about a 3 or 4 week period where pretty much every acre of corn gets sprayed with a fungicide, and it's very time sensitive due to the growth stage of the corn. So airplanes come in from all over the country, and it's just, I mean, you got ADSB and there's crop dusters everywhere. So he was up there from Arkansas doing that, and he was in a smaller, underpowered airplane a little bit, and he was heavy, and he kind of got himself painted into a corner. There's a big set of power lines you see right there, and he waited too long to pull off for him, and decided he had to go underneath them. But then this 18-wheeler's on the highway, kind of where he needed to go. So you can see him check a little left and to get some space in front of the 18-wheeler, and he did a little math on it. He thinks he missed it by about 82 feet. And but it looks like.
Are you sure this wasn't you, TBear?
Yeah,
I don't know.
you know an awful lot about this.
I don't know anybody that would do 82-foot math, because I remember when I was in IFF learning about 1.69 times time of fall.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's something you would do.
So a couple things on this. So the guy painted. He made a mistake, is what really happened. He wasn't trying to be stupid out there, and it kind of goes to a couple things. A lot of people watch us fly these crop dusters. They think we're, breaking the law by flying right over a house or right over a car. Right. Technically, what this guy did not break a law, because our rules, Part 91, which most people fly under, have all these 500 feet away from person, vessel, structure. But Part 137, which he's operating under when you're spraying, removes those restrictions. So you just can't hit it. So like when I dive in a field to start a spray pass, I might fly 10, 15, 20 feet over the roof of a house, and there's nothing illegal about that. It's allowed by Part 137. But a lot of people just don't understand that. Now, if you do something like this and get a lot of notoriety out of it and get a lot of public opinion going, the FAA is going to come back with their catch-all careless and reckless operation, which they can like I talked to the FAA guy and he goes, "What's careless and reckless operation?" He goes, "Yeah, it's whatever I say it is." And
for legal reasons, this is a joke. Which, by the way, in case people were wondering, I forgot to add, TBear is a current ag pilot, so this is his forte. He's not just
so he speaks
from experience. In fact, his new call sign is Tree Bear.
That's right.
Yeah. Done that twice now. Actually 3 times now. Wait, 4 times now. But no, with this guy, I did find out though, the FAA actually all they did was gave him a warning that's going to sit on his record for 2 years. And if he doesn't do anything, it'll fall off his record in 2 years. But they did not yank his certificate or give him any additional training or anything. And like you said, it was nothing intentional. He just painted himself in a corner. Stupid move. That's all.
Well, and in fairness to the FAA, we give them crap, but they can be very, very fair and reasonable in a case, where they look at the facts and do something like this versus whatever. Gonky, I'm sorry, you're about to say something.
Well, in Lemoore, it's all farmland, and I can't tell you how many times taking Grangeville on the way home, which is the back way to town, I'd be on my motorcycle heading home, and a crop duster would just straight buzz me. Well, I mean, I wouldn't even,
pissed at him, Maverick style.
It's too late. Like by the time he went over, and I sold myself, and I didn't crash my motorcycle, and I got my wits back about me. I'd look and he's gone. But I mean, at least a half a dozen times, even in my truck, if just driving back, all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, what was that? So, I don't know if you're in an area where they're crop dusting, kind of like TBear said. I mean, they're just, those guys are tasked with a job, and it's an airplane, and it can only turn so hard. And when it's heavy, right, it can't maneuver. So, I mean, I can see, and TBear, I never saw that power line, and it makes perfect sense now that I watch it. I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that. So
like if we're spraying on both sides of a highway like that, if it's just cars, I mean, I climb, like this guy was not spraying on both sides. He was actually, that was the end of the field. But sometimes there'll be field on both sides of the road, and I climb just enough not to hit the cars. And I always look for 18-wheelers because I'm not climbing that high. If I see an 18-wheeler, I'll go a little higher because it just gets you off swath. We're trying to stay within, a foot left, right, and turn off, cross the road, turn back on, and get the edges. So it's a lot. When you're doing that, it's a lot of very professional pilots, and you spend your whole day trying to not hit something, but yet get the spray into every little nook and cranny that you can.
TBear, have, like, in your training and experience, like, have they hit semis before? Like, have there actually been?
The very next video is as well. It's not a crop duster, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen them hit a semi on a road like that, but I do know guys have hit a loader truck on a road. Our tractors are not uncommon.
Wow.
God.
Tractors are not uncommon.
So TBear, if the aliens were to attack,
check the viewers. We just spiked.
Would you say you would be on the front lines, or like?
I'm a pilot. I can fly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, so I mean, we've almost got all the tropes in this chat. We've got Maverick up here on the top left, that's restarting his career at 60 years old. We got the crop duster, Russell Case, at the bottom. I don't know what I am yet, but Ricky Bobby.
Doug Masters, bro. Come on.
Doug Masters. So we've got Aaron says, guessing both of them need a change of pants.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and Gonky's buddy Cluterus. TBear, is there a trick to crop dusting at night other than don't do it? How do you even see the fields? They do it at night here in El Centro.
Okay, well, first of all, I'll tell you why. It's because of bees. Bees do not forage at night. So when they're spraying insecticide, California has a law you can't spray insecticide during the daytime. So that's why they have to spray at night. They do a lot of lights on the airplane, and they go out and they have the fields scouted during the daytime, so they know where the wires are, they know where everything is, and they just use lights. And there are some folks that are beginning to use NVGs. That is still not as big as you think it would be, because I think NVGs would be the right answer, but no, most of them are just doing it with a lot of lights.
Are we talking crop dusting or A10 stuff here?
Crop dusting.
You're talking about sending out scouts and FPGs and
yes, no
it's
joke.
CAS. I mean, TBear always talks about how he's doing CAS with bugs.
Yeah, killing things with an airplane. That's what I've been doing my whole life. So yeah, that's why they do it. And that's why they do it at night out there, and they just do it with lights and scouted out fields.
All right, Douglas, we've got biplane, hello, red leather, yellow leather, and harvester collided here in this field.
Oh, geez.
And a TBear knows the story on this one. Let us play.
Here we go.
I'll make
What
the
a
noise.
beautiful shot.
What the?
Oh, dude.
The shot right here is what gets me.
The landing gear laying there.
Yeah.
Where is that?
This might have been Mississippi. The airplane is owned by a company out of Mississippi.
I love how that it's a 53-second video and we're only halfway through.
Well, yeah, the guy drives a truck out there to the airplane. It tore the prop up. It didn't go very far.
Oh, it crashed?
Oh, yeah. It's out there. You can see
I
it.
thought.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Everybody okay?
Did it survive?
Yeah, it's a guy and his wife in it. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting how
Tell
it
the
went
story.
Well, it's kind of interesting how he went across the social media too. You know, I was like, I'm in a few aviation groups, and all of them said, "How could he not see that thing? How could he not see that thing?" But then if you go to the OFP site, everybody blamed it on flight lead. And
I saw that. I mean, well, it's your fault because you shouldn't stack lower than lead below 500 feet.
Yeah, but he was probably about level with lead, and lead ran him into it. So I kind of blame it on the lead too. But bottom line is, it's not a crop duster. Everybody thought it was a crop duster. It's not. It's a couple of Stearmans, and the flight lead just had the smoke turned on. And he didn't hit a combine, which everybody says. He actually hit a cotton picker that it bales. It's a picker / baler, and that's about $150,000 Stearman, and it totaled out a $850,000 cotton picker.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Whoa!
Yes.
Hopefully,
it totaled it.
They totaled it because it did about $500,000 worth of damage on it, and it's middle of cotton picking time, so they needed a cotton picker, so they just went and buy another one.
Wow!
Yeah, and
now, did they know? Like, did the pilots know the people driving the cotton picker? I mean, or were they just showboating?
I don't know if they knew him or not, but
well, they had to. I mean, he's filming, right? So he had to know they were coming.
Yeah, probably so. I don't know the connection between those people and the people in the airplanes. I do know that the people in the airplanes come from the crop dusting community. And I'm not going to say they're crop dusters, but they're from the ag community. So closely associated with the farmers and the crop dusters. So, and maybe former crop duster pilots. But
wow.
Yeah, they were not actually spraying. And I will say that it's not uncommon for a crop duster to, buzz a guy on a tractor. I made the comment earlier that, yeah, tractors get hit fairly often. Yeah, it does happen more often than it should. They run a gear into a tractor.
Wow.
But, that's not being very professional. And but I'm not going to lie. I've flown in front of a tractor and popped a little smoke, while I was spraying the field next to him or whatever, if I knew the guy. But I don't go out and intentionally try to do something like that.
The TBear, hello.
Yeah, the TBear, hello. Yeah.
TBear, hello.
The TBear. So the TBear Transportation Safety Board report would read what? What is the probable cause?
A flight lead flew him into that picture.
Okay.
You would think at like 80 knots, his skin would be able to at least go like.
You would think he could at least know he was going to hit that.
Yeah.
Thing. Nah, it was really, it goes back to they shouldn't have been doing that at all. Yeah. Those rules that we were talking about, the Part 137 versus Part 91, these guys were clearly operating under Part 91. Yeah. That required them to be 500 feet away from that cotton picker. Yeah. And obviously they were not.
Did they get violated?
To be determined, but I'm assuming something's going to happen.
All he had to do was this.
Yeah.
Lead just needed to do this. Yeah. Gonky, that's a symbol in the Air Force where we tell
cross
them to
under.
go the other way.
I know, dude. I remember from my Vance days. It's just the old stick. It's
I'm sure number 2 was just trying to look good. Light on the star or whatever you do for a steerman. And
light on the star.
That's probably all he was looking at, trying to look good. And yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, TBear. We're moving on to the hold on. We got Adam says, I crop dust at work all the time. Unfortunately, a CNC machinist, my coworkers aren't a fan.
Yeah, that's kind of the new meaning of crop dusting.
Yeah, that's funny, dude.
I don't know how new that is. When I was in elementary school, that was a thing.
Really?
Yeah. When you were in elementary school, I was already an old guy.
That's true, TBear. You were already killing people.
He was already a hero.
Yeah, he's already highway of death. Douglas, the Russian Air Force is eating into aircraft lifespans.
Aircrafts.
I had to review the wording on that one a couple times. Let's see. As the ground war in Ukraine continues to grind ahead, the VKS, Russian Aerospace Forces, are experiencing falling availability rates with their existing fleet of combat aircraft. The culprit is a combination of high number of losses of fixed-wing aircraft combined with a drop in mission-capable rates due to the higher than normal number of flight hours being flown by those aircraft remaining. And one of the problems they're having is they shot down 2 of their own Su-35s, which apparently has been happening more than once during this war.
I think most of their losses have been themselves. I think they have shot themselves down a lot more than anything.
It goes on to reference the increased op tempo, need for increased maintenance, is being complicated by shortage of spare parts because of increasing demand and international sanctions. Number of bullet points here. I think the one I've focused on the most is the last one. By the summer of 2024, combat losses and imputed flight hour losses may put the VKS below 75% of its pre-war strength. Let's see. High flight hours being flown by older aircraft is equivalent to losing roughly 34 aircraft since the start of the invasion. They expect to lose 30 to 60 airframes a year from combat. And
that's the 2 squadrons, 2 small squadrons, essentially, that you're losing a year.
Russian defense minister projected the war in Ukraine will last at least until 2025. Consistent implementation of measures and activity plans will allow us to achieve the goals we set. Aircraft is fine.
Yeah, it's all good. Thanks, Doug. So this is a lesson, part of it. We have shot our own planes down in the past, but this specific lesson about flying, there you go. Flying high hours and running our stuff into the ground is exactly what we've learned for the last 20 years. But we had parts and depot. What would they call it with the? Because I think the F-16 had it and the A-10 had it too. Or they got to 8. I think it was 8,000 hours, and then they sent it to the depot to
the service life extension, the SLEP.
Yeah.
Service life extension program.
Yeah. So we learned this lesson ourselves because we were taking fighters that were not meant to do this, putting them, 10 to 15 hours at a time. Probably more than that. You're almost talking 20 hours a day in combat operations and making them fly and running out hours on them. and that's expensive. TBear, what do you think?
Well, I think it's called combat, and that's what happens. That's what happens, and that's why it's so hard to sustain that so long. And obviously you can, though. If you go back to Vietnam, different era, but we lost a lot of airplanes, and we flew a lot of hours on airplanes. We managed to keep up with that, but then as airplanes got more expensive, more complicated, and instead of having a buttload of them, we got a few of them. It gets harder and harder to do. I mean, A-10s, when I first started flying A-10s, if an airplane had 2,000 hours on it, it was an old airplane. And then I got out of the airplane for 4 years. And when I came back, 5,000, 6,000 hours was common. And I started flying them in 89. And so the airplanes were like 12 years old at that time, 11, 12 years old. And like I said, 2,000 hours was a high time airplane. And then 4 years later, they're 5,000 and 6,000 hour airplanes. So you can see what it does to you. And then of course, all that eats off total service life. And that's part of the AD-Air program. Remember, we all had jobs because we didn't want to burn those hours off.
Yeah, past tense.
Thanks, TBear. It's not a sore subject.
Dust. Yeah, it's not a sore subject. Views are our own. I don't represent the DOD or.
But yeah, it was all because we were trying to save the hours on the F-22s. So yeah, I mean, it's called combat, and you just have to. There ain't no way to fix it except spend money on it.
Yeah, and they don't have it. I mean, they're under sanctions, so it's a much different picture than Uncle Sam's money printer goes burr, that we can just print the money and hand a check over to whichever contractor we'd like.
Yeah, but they don't have any U.S. stuff. They're making their own parts. Right.
Well, that's what the article talked about, was some of the sanctions were preventing them from being able to continue to make parts.
Microchips.
Yeah.
That's where their problem is.
Yeah. I agree. I looked at that article. I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. Different country, but I've seen this before.
Gonky, you've seen it in the Navy. I mean,
big time.
They burned so many hours on the Hornet and the Super Hornet.
Yeah.
Brand new Super Hornets.
Yeah. I remember they're like, hey, you guys are using too many hours. Cause they're every airplane is on a like a lifespan maintenance plan. And it's like, if it starts hitting these hour milestones early, it's like, wait a minute, it's not supposed to be here for another 2 years. What's going on? And then like TBear said, well, you're using it in combat. So I don't know what to tell you,
That happened with the center barrel.
Oh yeah.
The Hornet center barrel. You had jets that were, they're 2G limited. Oh, great. I can go out and fly 4G.
4G limited jets in the RAG. Yeah.
And the Viper, the Viper was something we were always talking about. Would one day we see the Viper stick around long enough that it would not be a 9G aircraft anymore, because we just extended the life. That's why they put new wings on the Hog. And then how many hours did the Hog have? So you talked about 2,000 and 4,000, TBear. What did it have after Afghanistan? Like, what kind of hours were you seeing there? Do you remember?
Man, I can't remember, but I think they were in the 6,000, 7,000 hour.
Is that what it was designed for? 6,000 hour?
No, I think it was a 8. I can't remember. Six does kind of stick out in my mind. Yeah. But you know what? The Navy doesn't pull G's, right? You could 4G airplane
when they land. Right? When they land, it's all the G forces on the land.
TBear, we couldn't do the G warm, man. We couldn't do the G warm, so we weren't legal to do anything.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Any reattacks on that one before we move on? Sweet. Got anything from the kids at home? Nope. Sweet. Moving on to the secret behind this Army TikToker.
You want me to take this one?
Yeah.
I thought you might have some insight.
I do, once we talk about it.
All right.
Once you tee it up.
The secret behind this soldier's hilarious Instagram reels and TikToks. You might recognize the friendly mustachioed face of Army National Guard Sergeant First Class Tyler Butterworth from his Instagram reels that mimic supermodels doing ASMR on luxury vehicles. As funny as his videos are, they actually aren't just for laughs. He's been using them as a recruiting tool, like a true shammer. Do you want to watch one?
No, people can go watch it on the same. Yeah.
And he
cancer. Go on.
Reports. Well, they addressed that in the article. My inspiration was to do less work, he told Military Times.
Perfect.
Work smarter and work less. I very quickly realized that most kids we're looking to recruit don't even know their own phone number or have an email address. I figured the way to communicate with them best is the way they do with each other, and that's through social media.
Yeah. Do you have the quote?
Go ahead.
Where he talked to the Army Chief of Staff. You have that quote?
Okay. Really? I didn't see
right down here. At the highest level, the Army supports this. He said, I actually just briefed the Secretary of the Army, the Sergeant Major of the Army, and the Chiefs of Staff of the Army this past week on an innovative idea on how we can better target people to enlist and spread information to soldiers currently in the Army. As for the videos, he's using them for recruiting purposes. They allow him the opportunity to be goofy, be himself, and learn new things. I like being funny, so I'm just going to be myself. I truly enjoy making videos and being funny. The more people I can involve in it, the better it shows our diversity and who we are as soldiers.
TBear Biden has just wandered off the stage. Somebody go get him.
Dude, my battery's dying.
Yellow light.
My battery's dying. All right.
Oh, jeez, dude.
Physical, mental, or some other battery that we're not aware of. Thank you, Douglas. That's good.
It's the computer battery this time.
This probably is the last one.
I just see. Yeah, we're canceled. It's not because of anything else. It's just because we're canceled. But back on track. Sorry, I just see TBear wandering off.
Yeah, couldn't do
it. Where's your handler at?
Yeah, the stage has two entrances. You picked neither of them. So anyway, I wanted to talk about this article because of what he said about recruiting. Because we talked about this last week about you have to message for the current generation and for the current people, whether you like it or not, whether you say, well, you know, the kids these days are weak or soft or whatever. That's it. That's what you have. Unless you go recall all the 40 somethings and the 50 somethings and the 60 somethings, you have this group and you have to be able to connect with them. Even though TikTok is cancer, you have to be able to connect and reach them and make it entertaining and make it interesting. And what I do like is the fact that unlike some other services that I may or may not have known, they held a meeting with him to talk about innovative ways to do that versus perhaps a more extreme approach on the other side. TBear.
Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing.
Isn't TikTok like owned by the Chinese?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I can't. It's like, I mean, can you imagine like, oh, this is how they're recruiting now? I mean, watching this guy, it's like
ASMR.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, hey, you're right. It's you gotta speak the language, right? So that's what he's doing. That's awesome. And if it works, that's awesome. If it gets, you know, accurate information across and like, you know, young people can join and serve, I'm all for it. Doesn't mean I still won't make fun of it because I'm old.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is cringy. His stuff I've watched, you know, the thing that Doug was going to show it. It's a mimic, you know, it's a trend. Everybody's trending. We're going to do the trending thing, whatever. I think there's not much creativity in trending stuff, to be honest with you. But I do think that if you can message correctly and show people the good side of serving your country for the right reasons, getting the right people in place, go where they are. If you can go where they are and you can find them and you can get them to serve, because TBear, I don't want to be 60 and I'm under communist regime because we had nobody to stand up and hold a rifle.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely. And you know, what you said is 100% true. And it took me a long time to get over that. And that it's just, and it takes a lot of people. It's a new generation. You got to deal with them different. And as much as you think, you know, this is the way it's got to be, this is the way I've always done it, you got to change, you got to adapt. And is, in our eyes, it's probably saying our military is a little weaker. Maybe it is. We're weaker than the dudes in World War II. I mean, that was some badasses there. And
valid.
True. We got the job done, and these folks who get the job done, you have to recruit them. And I tell you what's getting hard is, everybody's putting their kid on anti-anxiety medicine and ADHD medicine and getting them diagnosed with this. Is like there's a very small part of our population that's even fit for military duty right now.
Yep,
I agree.
You got now the TikTok thing. Now I do want to say something about that. Is I read a little article about what the Chinese TikTok version in their country is like, and it's all STEM oriented, and showing the kids experiments and stuff. And if you poll the Chinese, what does every kid want to grow up to be? And it's an astronaut, and in the or whatever the Chinese call them. And but in the U.S., everybody wants to grow up to be a social media influencer.
Yeah. And to that point too, with the quality of content, these 15 to 30 second clips feed into the ADHD. It feeds into that short attention span. I can't watch long form videos because I have to have the fix, the dopamine hit over and over and over through these things. And it's addictive. I mean, I'll watch Instagram reels, which aren't any better. You sit there and you're like, holy crap, I just wasted 20 minutes watching these videos, and hardly any of them are worth anything. Like, you're not learning anything, you're not growing anything. So I do agree, but in this case, when it comes to social media, you have to be able to adapt, and you can't say this is the way we've always done it, because if you do that, then you have recruiting issues. And that's it. I think we just need to be innovative. Cool. Anything else on that? Great. Maxim says, question for TBear. Sorry, missed the intro. Was it physiologically difficult to move to a single engine plane redundancy-wise? Thank you, as always. TBear flew the Viper.
I did.
Before the crop duster.
Does he mean psychologically, maybe?
I'm going to hazard a guess that that's a yes.
Yeah.
Well, it could be physiologically difficult. I mean,
well, it was
when the engine quits, you may poop your pants.
That's
a physiological thing.
Regardless.
I withdraw my assertion.
It was physiological because, the A-10 is more of a 5-6G airplane, and the Viper out there doing BFM at 9. So, yeah, it was. But I think he means psychologically. And not really. All it did was, I will say, crossing the North Atlantic, I thought about it a lot. But that was really about the only.
You did a pond crossing in the Viper across the North Atlantic? Did you have to wear a poopy suit?
I did.
Oh, TBear. All the stuff I knew you've done in your career, I have the most respect for you for that.
Yes. And that's back when the Viper used to shock you. And
Navy guys don't know about pond crossings because they take their boat with them. They don't cross the pond. The boat's just there.
Yeah,
we have blue water ops, dude. It's just as bad.
Yeah, except it isn't. In this case, it was 9 hours. But and then, like I was saying, that's back when the Viper used to shock you. Did you fly them? Were they still shocking when you were flying them?
What do you mean shock you?
Well, the canopies used to arc into your arm at random periods. Big purple spark. It would tase you It would tase you while you flew it.
That's funny. No, TBear, we were talking about this the other day with strafing. What was it that would come apart in the Viper when you'd shoot the gun? It was like asbestos. It was some kind of like the foam, the insulation would come out through the ducts. What was that from? You remember?
No, I
because you would strafe and it'd be like a little cloud, and you'd have it all over your flight suit after shooting the gun.
Yeah, well, also that canopy coating would fall off too. And when it was shocking you, it used to blow that canopy coating off, and when you would land, you would have gold all over your flight suit.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, TBear, it's awesome. You should be a regular on the show now. Griff says, "Evening, gentlemen. Thanks for your service, TBear. Use this for a new laptop battery or cold beer, whichever you need more, or a handler to keep it from wandering off screen."
They need to go help the other guy.
Yeah, one old buzzard says $10. Thanks, buzzard. And Aaron says, "I hear crop dusting is really hard because of the heat. If that big fan in the front shuts off, you can immediately see the pilot start sweating."
Yeah, you sweat even when it's running. Oh, well, we do have pretty good air conditioned systems, but down in the South, it is hot, and you do sweat.
Maxim says it was psychologically, is what he was talking about, not physiological. I thought it was a valid argument. It could be physiological. All right, moving on. This next one is Gonkys Topic about Russian 19 kills in 24 hours. Douglas, you're the man. By the way, we want to thank Doug for all of his support tonight. He's had quite the weekend, so we're appreciative that you're sticking it out and powering through for us.
I appreciate that. The good news is I only remember about half of it.
So will TBear.
I want to shout out Maxim Alexandrov here, because if you notice, his amounts of money are always a joke. He did this.
737. Yep.
And then he did this, and I remember from last time or a previous time that that seems to be a thing he's doing. Anyway, it was not a Russian, it was Russia. That changes the whole story. I read it as a single Russian had 19 kills in 24 hours.
This is the Russian.
Yeah.
So do I need to change the banner? Is that misleading? Hold on.
Well,
I will change
a
it.
difference for me.
Russia.
Russia.
Because that was a really good story up until the facts came out.
Russia has 19 kills in 24 hours. Continue.
I did like a freshman biology student here and highlighted the whole thing. Russia's Ministry of Defense has announced that its air defense systems managed to shoot down 7 Ukrainian MiG-29 Fulcrums in a day, when the Russian military is still recovering from the unexpected ATACMS attack on its airfield. Only during the last 24 hours, 7 Ukrainian MiG-29 were shot down by air defense. So they got input from an Indian Air Force veteran, Squadron Leader Vijender K. Thacker, told Eurasian Times, since they were lost to air defense, it's logical to assume they ran into ambushes. When asked to elaborate, he said they fly low to avoid detection, and then they pop up near the launch point for the JDAM they're carrying. When they pull up, they're prone to detection by adversary radar. And then the Eurasian Times goes on to point out that none of this has been authenticated. Although the exact number of MiG-29s in Kiev's arsenal is unknown, there were reports that are just about 50 in flyable condition. So losing 19 out of 50 matters. And again, they can't confirm these numbers. It's widely known that frontline MiG-29s have borne the brunt of the aerial war with a much superior air force in Russia. They've been pulling them out of long-term storage, refurbishing them locally, and borrowing from the Slovaks and Polish and improving aircraft. So apparently they're really having a hard time putting planes in the air. That's the story.
Yeah, I when I read this, I immediately thought, when he was explaining why, I was like, "Oh, that's Top Gun Maverick, right? Flying in low under the radar, and then boom, they pop up, and they kind of nail them." So, I don't, Mover or TBear, I didn't realize that they had JDAM on the MiG-29.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess
you know what I'm
have
saying?
To go pre-planned.
Yeah, exactly. There's all kinds of stuff you got to put in an airplane before you can use JDAM.
Yeah.
Use it accurately, at least. I at least with my knowledge of the JDAM. So I think that's kind of weird. And then the whole, I'm not saying you can't do it, but the whole idea of flying in low and basically like lobbing it, to me is a little strange. Compared to how we used to use it.
Does a MiG-29 have CCRP or auto? Does it even have?
I don't think it has any.
Give you the steering? Yeah, I don't think it has a steering line.
I think it has a gun sight.
Like in Viz mode.
Yeah, I don't think it has any air to ground. But
you can plan it out. You can plan it out. I mean, way back in the day, we had LGB on A10 before we had any CCRP, anything like that. And you just had to have a good plan and a release point figured.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of curious about. TBear was like, because the A10 didn't have JDAM from the beginning, so you know, like when they first introduced it to the Hog, I mean, I know that they had to modify the airplanes. I mean, they should have.
Don't you need that?
You had to have the pylons that
the bus. Yeah, you had to have the wiring and stuff that was smart enough. So would they?
1760, is that what it was? 1760? I can't remember.
1.69.
Yeah.
1.69. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they talk about, you know, losing MiG-29s and losing helicopters and stuff, but like I'm always a little bit skeptical of any kind of numbers. I mean, both sides claiming stuff. But again, I just kind of thought, you know, I read those articles and like just kind of knowing how knowing how some of these weapons work, I'm like, I wonder how much of this is real.
But, yeah. I don't trust any of the information coming out of that whole area.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of the kills, like, because people always quote this to me. They're like, well, you know, the longest air-to-air kill was, I'm like, I don't believe it. I mean,
right.
Show me, prove it. Who said that?
Right.
We're not talking trustworthy people of truth.
At least not right now.
Truth. Yeah.
Right.
It's not. So
one day we might, but like that was my main thing, is just kind of reading that how they're using the MiG-29. I'm like, man, I don't remember ever having any kind of air to ground capability. I mean, you know, let alone GPS, but I mean, I guess you can mod anything. And I know they've been modding their airplanes to accept Western weapons. And he even talks a little bit about in that article about, you know, it'd be better with the F-16, which debatable.
They probably have some kind of makeshift like ADS-B puck and their ForeFlight on their iPad and are somehow transmitting from ForeFlight to drop.
Dude,
I mean, TBear, I talked about this on the show, but you told me there's a guy with an RV that's got all that stuff. I mean, if you can civilianly do it, why can't you?
Well, hey, you know, you bring up a good point, right? When we were flying T-38s, right, with our GPSs and stuff, you're right. They started to bring in some civilian stuff, like, because it's better. So it's better.
Well, we tried the whatever it was called, the position reporting thing, APRS. We tried that and it worked great over land where they had repeating stations on the ground. So yeah, you can do a lot of things. But if you look at the video of these guys flying the Russians, they have handheld GPSs, you know,
I've seen that,
suction cupped into the cockpits. And but hey, you know, there's one point here I just want to throw out. You know, they don't put together a package like so to speak, like we do, and they're kind of going in there, you know, without a whole lot of protection against these SAMs when they're doing that.
Just like Maverick.
You know, 19 kills 24 hours sounds great, but I don't think that would work so well against, you know, a strike package, a U.S. strike package.
Right. Exactly. Because we'd have airplanes to help with that stuff.
Unlike Top Gun Maverick, we actually have people that do these things.
What's your read on this, Mav? Well,
we don't just send
the
4-ship in and say good luck and put the 2 wingmen together and the 2 flight leads together. TBear, did you notice that where they're like, hey, your 1 and 3 will be together and 2 and 4. And it's like, well, no wonder they never got there. 2 and 4 were so lost.
Live and learn, man. It's all about learning from your mistakes.
You know what? If I'm Maverick, I want my element lead with me. I don't care about the inexperienced dumb wingmen. They're probably blind anyway.
Just put those 2 out front.
Put them out in front. There are decoys.
Yep.
We're gonna go out. Okay, Gonky, any more? This is your topic, so you got.
Yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Was like, hey, does it, you know, the validity of MiG-29s even doing that? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Kate says, tithing to my favorite cause. Thank you, Kate. They always say, give where you are taught. Oh, to celebrate a new job, a nominal thank you, gents. Congratulations on your new employment.
Yeah, congrats.
Gluterus says, are there any weapon systems from other nations' aircraft you wish you would have been implemented on U.S. fighters?
Hades bomb.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I have nothing further.
I would like to have a phoenix from an Iranian tomcat.
Tomcats.
Tomcats.
I was like trying to think of like TIE fighters or something with lasers, but TBear nailed it, dude. You cannot defeat the Hades bomb.
You know what? In all seriousness, I always thought like the Python 4 and 5 would be pretty rad. I'm like, dude, that missile is pretty. Oof, ouch.
Yeah. I would like to see the Eagle community have the ASRAM, but for no other reason than it would be hilarious.
Oh, dude.
And that stands for Advanced Short Range Air-to-Air Missile, in case anybody's wondering. It's not for legal reasons, this is a joke.
They would love it.
I just feel like the C model guys would love that. Off the rails. TBear, you got me getting canceled already.
Well, that's
your present. Yeah. You're Syrian. We never figured out what that means. Surprised Russia didn't say it was F-35s they shot down. I'm surprised too. I'm sure that's next.
We could count.
Well,
we could count those.
Remember, the Venezuelans said they shot down that Viper out over from Homestead.
Yeah.
Yeah, they claimed that one.
Was that before or after they tried to steal our engine? That was the Chinese.
As Chinese tried to buy the engine. They weren't going to
buy the engine out the back gate. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
That was after.
Heard that.
Yeah.
That was after.
Zippers Forever.
Wait a minute. Wasn't that in Key West?
No, it was in Homestead.
No, that was at Homestead.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. Zippers Forever. Thank you. Love the dog. Says they use harm with a US rack wired to an iPad. I don't know if he's joking because I actually could believe that.
Yeah.
At this point, anything. There's no emoticon. There's no LOL.
Yeah.
What the Air Guard and Reserve Test Center out at Tucson, they do some amazing things out there. Yeah. Just hanging, strapping stuff on, so to speak.
So to speak. I wonder if Tricky's still out there. Remember Tricky?
I do remember Tricky.
Yeah. All right, moving on. The Ike to the Middle East. And this is how we know, because there was a picture on Twitter of them getting their mid-rats or whatever, their food, and it was all good food. And Gonky, doesn't that mean bad news is about to happen?
You sent me that. They were getting lobster and steak, and immediately I thought, well, that means tomorrow they're getting like lobster soup and some sort of steak stew, and then let's see, what can they make out of the leftovers the third day? That's all I think about. No, I don't think it has any correlation, man. It was probably Sunday. Dude, on Sundays we would have like really nice stuff sometimes.
Okay. I mean, debunked that myth.
Dude, you got to do a lot more to these kids nowadays to be like, hey, by the way, you're extended 2 months. I mean, dude, lobster is not going to do it.
Shall I read this one?
Yeah, that's the awkward silence means.
I was waiting on my cue.
We're
the Ike Carrier Strike Group has headed to the Middle East. This is from Navy Times. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has directed the Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group to steam to Middle Eastern waters of the U.S. Central Command as part of an effort to counter recent escalations by Iran. That's a understatement. Its proxy forces in the region, according to a statement released Saturday by the Pentagon. The move will be the first time a carrier has operated in CENTCOM waters since the end of the Afghanistan war in August 2021. They referenced the October 7th attack. Conflict has provoked fears of a broader regional war involving Iran and its proxies. They outlined some of the capabilities.
They're bringing the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense Missile Battery.
Highlight it and make it actually exist here. That pretty much covers it. Eisenhower Strike Group left
troops. Yeah.
Left to East Coast last week, initially heading to Eastern Med, where the Gerald R. Ford and the Strike Group are already on station. And
they intercepted and shot down 15 drones.
Was that the same group? That was
the Carney.
Yeah,
Carney did that. So that's amazing. They shot down 4 cruise missiles and 15 drones. If that's not an act of serious aggression,
that's a lot.
Gonky, I picked this one, but I figured this is kind of your wheelhouse. What do you think about all this?
I think it's just, I mean, it's not the first time they've done. I think it's a show of force. I mean, granted, they actually did, shoot some drones and stuff down this time. But I think it's a show of force. I mean, I get it. It's peace through strength, right? That's the move. I really do hope that nothing transpires, but that's all it is. I think. I mean, and those guys, they were the guys on the Ike were probably all ready for a sweet med cruise, pulling to some good ports, and now they're going to the desert.
And the Gerald R4 guys are stuck, so they're just keeping them both out there. Yeah. It sounds a lot like the plot to a book that I read from a certain T.R. Matson.
I hate,
he's in flight.
Right. So he's, he can see into the future, apparently.
He doesn't know anything about aliens, but he does know the future. So
yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, I don't read too much into this. I literally just think it's show of force. But
okay. TBear, what do you think? You've been on a boat before.
Oh yeah. I spent one night and that was my Air Force appreciation tour there. Now, I mean, what do you do whenever there's something happens in the world? You send a carrier. That's what you do. That's what we've done for years, and that's what we continue doing. And it's a carrier group is a pretty powerful force out there. And if you're acting up and they come park off your coast, you might think twice.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, though, what else they're sending? Maybe I'm skipping ahead. Doug, am I skipping ahead too far? Can you do the A-10 one?
I can grab that. Let's see.
Yeah, because they've also sent T-Bears.
Sending the hogs.
Aeroplanes.
There we go.
There you go.
I don't have this one highlighted, so I'm completely lost. But
boy.
Hold on. Let me get rid of that banner. A-10. There you go.
There we go. American A-10 Warthog attack planes arrived in the Middle East on Thursday as the Pentagon scrambles to keep the nascent war between Israel and Hamas from sparking a broader regional conflict. It was the 354th Fighter Squadron from Davis-Monthan, deployed as part of a larger effort to rush firepower to U.S. CENTCOM. More advanced military aircraft, including the F-35 Lightning II, the F-15 Eagle, and the F-16 Fighting Falcon.
Yes.
Why does hold on now? Why does the A-10 get to be the Warthog and the F-16's got to be the Fighting Falcon?
It's not the Thunderbird 2. I just, I wanted to highlight that for you, Mover.
Thunderbolt.
Let's see. F-15s from 494th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron.
50 years old.
RF Lakenheath arrived on theater on Friday. Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall noted in Atlantic Council event Tuesday that airmen who are due to return to the United States from CENTCOM will stay in the area, so they got extended too. And that pretty much covers it.
DoD policy not to discuss future operations.
Yep.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit with Shanghai about how useful this is, but TBear, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? We were talking about, what's the next conflict, and we saw Ukraine, and they lined up all the tanks, and they said, hey, the A-10 would be great here, and then we said, no, they're not, because of the seed and the surface to air picture. And now we're back in the Middle East, and guess what airplane is good for this?
Yep. And the Ukraine, I don't know if I 100% agree on that, because if we were fighting that war, we couldn't have gave them to the Ukrainians to go fight that war. But if the U.S. was fighting that war, that missile threat, that IADS would probably not be as robust as it was. And the A-10 could go in there. I mean, we're not a doorbuster, door kicker kind of airplane. We're the one comes in after and takes care of things there. But Middle East, I mean, and particularly what you're talking about there, the A-10 ended up over time becoming a urban fighter. And it would definitely, all the collateral damage prevention things that they did with both, smaller warheads, more precise things, and kinetic weapons. Yeah, that would be a pretty good place for them, probably. I'm curious where they are, but I know we're not going to talk about that. But I'm curious where they flying them out of.
Yeah, I don't know, but if they're even flying them out of anywhere, right? I mean, right now it's just like the carrier. It's a show of force.
Yep.
we're here, we're ready. You know those guys, because some of the younger guys especially, missed the tail end and the ISIS fight, so they're at the front end, and they probably thought that, oh well, this thing's going away, I'm not going to get to see anything, and now they're probably chomping at the bit, going, "Put me in. Let's go do some work."
And Bulldogs, that's who that is. Bulldogs out of DM.
Yeah, Gonky, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think the A10 always has a place in warfare. I mean, I like it. So, like a side note, and I know there's sophisticated aircraft were also in the area, but like it's like the A10 is the main headline, because it is, right. I mean, like after day one, like TBear said, you need an airplane that can go in there and just clean house. After the expensive, stealthy, nerd stuff takes care of that. Takes care of, your air defenses from the bad guys. Nothing's going to do it better than A10.
But people misunderstand the A10 is not the A10 that TBear flew in the 80s. It's a nerd airplane now too.
Yeah.
They've got all the cool toys.
Hey, I flew them in this century.
Count it.
Did you hand prop it? Yeah.
But
you had a little wheel, you spun the gun yourself.
Yeah. I did always have an INS at least.
Now, TBear, do you think in this conflict or any conflict, do you think what Gonky's point about being a specialized, what's your take on multi-role, since you've done both in the F-16 and the A-10? Was it better as a multi-role fighter, a jack of all trades, or do you think part of what makes the A-10 great is that the community is focused on basically one to two missions?
Yeah, absolutely. When I flew the F-16, I always said, man, I'm half-ass at everything, is what I was saying. Because as soon as you got spun up on, BFM and air-to-air, you go back to air-to-ground, you couldn't hit your butt with both hands. And then you get to where you're driving nails with your bombs, and then you go back to flying BFM, and you can't even fight. So, and then the F-16 guys hated it when I said that, the straight F-16 guys. But that's because I had come from the A-10 community where our only mission was the 18-year-old on the ground. That was it. And A-10 pilots pride themselves on being CAS pilots. I mean, the three things. The two big things we do is close air support and combat search and rescue. And that is in the blood of every A-10 pilot. And when you're spending almost 100% of your time training to those two missions. Oh, the other one I didn't mention was AFAC, FAC A. So you do also do that, but that and CAS are pretty dang close. So when you are training to just those things, you are the CAS and CSAR experts. And I don't think a Viper guy can ever claim to be a CAS expert. So yeah, when you're fighting in a urban area like that, you got the A-10, like we were talking about the collateral damage. I mean, the gun is like one of the best anti-collateral damage weapons. I mean, you shoot just what you want to shoot, about something about the size of a car, and that's it.
Even if you could focus 100% of your time, like doing CAS in the F-16, I mean, the A-10 was just a better airplane for the mission. Is that a true statement?
Turn back around, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, loiter time, because you can hang out in the long. I mean, we were doing in Afghanistan 4 hours unrefueled in the A-10, and you just had it back on the blades up high. The other thing is just the bomb range. If you're dropping bombs, and say you're in a low altitude that's a whole nother thing. If the weather gets bad, Vipers are fast. You get down below the weather, you're having to get so far away from the target area, you just don't see. An A-10, slower, under the weather, is more effective there. Once you go to low threat and everybody's flying up high, it's not as much of a difference. But then it all falls on to how much the A-10's carrying to the fight compared to a Viper. because I mean, you load a hog up and you can be there all day with bombs and bullets and gas.
TBear, what do you think about the argument of 2-seat FAC A versus like an 810 single seat FAC A work?
You know, I've always been a single seat guy. I think my SA is reduced when I have a guy in the back. Well, mainly because, you know, when you're doing it all yourself, you have to focus and you have to bring it all in, and you're trying to have the whole picture. If you're up front only doing half the job, maybe you don't get, I don't know. I don't have the experience of doing that with two people in an airplane. I do know as a single seat airplane, it's busy. But, you know, we've done a lot of FAC in single seat airplanes, you know, all the way back Vietnam. All those FAC airplanes were mostly single seat, except when they put like a Vietnamese translator in the back, you know. But you think of your O1s, your O2s, your OB10s, you know, your Misty FACs. That was all single seat. And then now we did it with A10s, and, you know, we did A37s and then A10s, and it's all been single seat. I think the Navy they fly a 2-seater when they do FAC A.
Marines,
right?
yeah, the Marines, right? That's
and the Navy. The Navy does FAC A with the
and the Air Force. Aren't the Strike Eagle? Don't the Strike Eagle community or something? Don't they do?
Do they do FAC A? I didn't know they had a FAC A mission.
I don't know. They're all weird. Gonky, you look like you're going to say something.
F-16 has FAC A mission, but they do it single seat also.
TBear, has the A10 got a autopilot?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that used to help me out a lot in CAS.
Yeah, the A10 has an autopilot. And I would venture to say, you know, back to that less sophisticated or the other more sophisticated aircraft, you know, a C model A10, other than not having a radar, is a pretty sophisticated airplane.
Yeah.
You know, the data link targeting pods. I mean, it's pretty sophisticated aircraft.
Helmet too, right? You guys, the latest helmet?
Yeah. Yep. Helmet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Good topic. We got some from the kids at home. Conquer says, I read a book back in the 90s titled Dreamland about a modified B-52H being used as a control aircraft UCAVs that would provide support. Do you think this could be possible? Sure. Anything's possible.
Yeah, whether it be effective or not.
Yeah. I mean, you can do anything with enough money. Aaron says yet another reason not to retire the A10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not blowing off the B-52 thing. I just don't know. I mean, you know, the UCAV thing, I don't know. TBear, you think that to me, anything with enough
they got like 6 dudes on it now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
5 dudes, I guess. I don't know.
Sean says, thank you. Mover, last week you mentioned happy cows make happy milk. Did you and the bovine community make up since you GE Vulcan paint misted a full third? FYI, y'all watch Mover's call sign video if you don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah. I didn't see your video. Does it explain that your call sign is actually Mover?
It is not, TBear. It is not. There's one O. There are no umlauts.
Not when I spell it.
3-1 term. You call me Mover. You didn't even put a V in there, Gonky.
I know.
And then Shanghai, who's watching, awesome.
Shanghai's
got his show has been like a typical A10 guy. It's late, so it's been pushed all the way back to November. But go check that out.
Yeah, I know Shanghai. Yeah,
he's got a show
together.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was me, Mark White, him, and it was 4 of us, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Small world. All right, moving on to something a little less serious. This I got this one, Douglas. This is the if I can find the banner, I will. So the title of this article is called "Pilot Shows Off Incredible Skills as He Shares Footage of How Close Planes Fly Together." And you'd think, man, this is going to be some Thunderbirds or some Blue Angels. Wombat sent me this and said, hey, you want to talk about this on the show tonight? It's from Supercar Blondie. You might feel like you're flying solo, but this footage proves otherwise. And of course, it's from TikTok. If you close the window shade and relax with a beverage or blockbuster, you might not have an idea how close you come to other aircraft. But whether you're an intrepid traveler or struggle with takeoff and turbulence, proximity between planes might leave you feeling a little uneasy. One pilot, Fly High 738 on TikTok, who apparently just takes videos while he's flying, must be European, because you wouldn't keep your certificate doing that in the old U.S. of United States, is taking videos, and it's with an AI voice, which is annoying as hell. When you travel, the sky is so big, you're alone, but look, there's other planes up here. And the camera pans, and it's another airplane. Look at all those chemtrails.
The guy's
But
like,
you're always... What?
I was gonna say, guy's like 2,000 feet high at least.
Oh, yeah. This is...
Oh, yeah.
passes beneath, the plane zooms off. We're most of the times following standard airways, kind of motorways in the sky. You know he's foreign if he's saying motorways. Cut to a shot of a control panel, then it pans up. We're only 1,000 feet or 300 meters. What the hell is a meter? From each other.
Oh boy.
Commies. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful, perhaps. With over 126,000 taking off per day. Recent stat shows there's only one fatal accident for every 4.2 million flights. And there are even safer aircrafts currently in development. Just for the kids at home, there is never a need to put an S on that word. There's no need for that. So stop that, for everybody's sake. So this is standard. It's called reduced vertical separation minimums.
Yep.
Every airplane does it. And the title, although they don't talk about it in the article itself, his incredible skill was monitoring the autopilot. That's all he's doing. He's eating his lunch, probably drinking coffee,
solving the world's problems.
He had to set
the about his contract.
2992.
That's right. 2992 set. We're good.
He had the altimeter correct. He was hopefully on the right frequency, maybe on the HF or whatever they're using to.
I'm surprised they didn't have the window plugs in blocking the sun. I mean, it gets bright.
He did have one of the shades up. Yeah, if you saw in the video, he had the window shades up. I'm like, why are you even looking outside, dude? But they will. ATC will give you traffic point out. So let's the educational part of this, right? So we do reduce vertical separation up at higher altitudes, and this allows us to be within 1,000 feet of another aircraft because autopilot technology is so good. But it's autopilot technology. You can go up there without one, but it's usually a military aircraft that has gotten a waiver, and usually it's only if there's not a lot of traffic. Otherwise, they'll cap you at 280.
Yep.
TBear, you actually, I forgot, dude, you fly citations. So you fly up in the bozosphere as well. Tell us about this.
Yep. I mean, we go up there and I see that all the time. Big deal. You know, I think it uses WASP too, doesn't it? On the
the GPS.
Yeah, I think it does. I'm not positive, but whatever. I mean, yeah, their airplanes 1,000 feet apart and you see them. Who cares? I mean, 1,000 feet, that's not even close.
I think they all have to have TCAS too, right?
Yeah, we got TCAS. Yeah,
I think they all have to have TCAS, and TCAS talks to one another. So if there ever is any potential conflict, which is a trending ascent and descent into any kind of a collision course, like the airplanes will tell you what to do to not hit one another. But like TBear said, 1,000 feet that's not that far.
Forever.
It's pretty far. That's a lot of turning room. That's a lot of turning room to give up right there, man. That's a below average.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks, Wombat.
Give me 1,000 foot of vertical turning room. I can
there you go.
Yeah. I don't, are people like short of ideas, or is just the general public so ignorant that they think this is,
I think, dude, what happened? Somebody probably sensationalized it, and the people who don't know much about aviation are like, oh my gosh,
I don't know.
I mean, it's like us watching a crop duster about hit a semi. I was 82 feet. Oh, okay. Well, in that case,
yeah,
plenty of room. Get extra.
How many things we pass real close to all day long.
See, told you.
Oh boy,
We're ignorant, Mover. We're ignorant.
TBear is about to get a call from Joe Bob, the FAA guy.
He knows what I do. He wrote a whole regulation for me.
Oh, that's funny.
Douglas, do you have the next one about the Air Force leaders?
Okay, I was going to ask which one's next. I can do that. Hang on.
All right. Well, while we wait for that, have you guys seen the 747 AAC? Thanks, Aaron. I don't know what that is, so no.
I think that's the 7-4. They were going to attach like little fighters in or on, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, I've
seen the drawing of it.
Yeah, I see that too. Yeah,
it was
pretty wild idea.
Do you have to sit in the fighter? Like what do you do when you're not?
Dude, I think it was a design concept. Like, here's a picture of what we can do, and people will probably like,
who straps me in though?
You can't strap yourself in. What are you doing across country?
It's an Air Force guy, dude. I need somebody to connect my harness for me.
Yeah.
First time I flew in the Navy, and the plane captain's like, "See you, sir." He walked off. I'm like, "What about the? Who's in?
Yeah.
How do I even?
I can't read.
My arm. It's too short. It's T-Rex arms. I can't. I'm not used to turning around because I'm always offensive. What is this?
Or you just knock it off. One of the two.
Watch the video.
Yeah, watch the DVD. D-Stew says, thanks, D-Stew. Talking about the A-10 being good in weather. Comments on the F-35 in weather? Ooh, too soon. Too soon. TBear, have you ever had or known someone who's ejected and their airplane kept going?
Yeah. There was a guy when I was in pilot training that told a story of jumping out of a 38. 2,000 feet, couldn't get the engine started. Remember how you started the engines, air started the engine 38? Put them in burner, right?
Yeah. Right, yeah. So when the air start, you got all the juice.
Yeah, and he went through 2,000 feet and go, well, got to get out, bails out, says he hangs in the chute, turns around to see his jet, and he sees one burner light. The next one. He goes, oh, they're going to be mad.
They're going to be mad.
But that particular one just went, it's stuck in the ground. I think it was out at Willie. And I don't remember exactly where it was. It was out west somewhere, and it's stuck in the ground. But I think Luke had a F-16 fly around for a while.
Yeah, they had to go chase it. It buzzed the guy that jumped out. Yeah, it buzzed the guy and jumped out, and then somebody was in the pattern and tried to go chase it. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
It frowned upon. Janitor is back. Thanks, Janitor.
Thanks, Janitor.
Oh, sure. Find the one article on the interwebs that over-exaggerates or misrepresents. Touche. We do that here. There's only a handful.
That's true.
Yeah, look hard to find that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wombat did extensive research to find something that was not good. Douglas.
I'm ready.
Here's your cue. That's a guard guy. Look at his patch. It's a guard guy.
It is.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Air Force Second Lieutenant Morgan Craver. And he's using the simulator that's identical to my own, so I'm quite pleased.
Douglas is an Air Force pilot. Dude, you could listen to the article. You could just have it tell you.
Do you want to do that?
No, I don't. No.
Senior Air Force leaders are sounding the alarm at a lack of high-tech flight simulators and are calling for upgrades they say are necessary to prepare for combat in a next-generation fight. Iran Corporation published a report saying that flight simulators, sometimes called sims, are needed for the Air Force. There's an unmet need for sims. In an ideal world, we'd be getting more readiness data from sims than from aircraft. The outcomes they want to predict are not available in live fly. I'd be interested to hear you guys expand on that. They mentioned that the simulators for the B-1 Lancer, the B-2 Spirit, and the B-52 Stratofortress lack fidelity because the aircraft are getting changed so often that the Special Operations Command simulators can't keep up. And they also pointed out that the service's shortage of updated and high-tech simulators stems partly from a desire to invest in more aircraft and engines, both of which are easier requests to get funded. One senior leader told RAND that it doesn't matter if you have engines or not, because you'll fail at the mission if simulation training is put on the back burner. And they mentioned the T-38s are getting old and falling apart. Not quite in those words. And they also reference the recruitment failures that have been happening. They've averaged around 1,300 new pilots for each year. And so that's leading to delays in getting new airmen to the training pipelines, delays in getting new engines, lack of instructor. Sounds like
stuff we've talked
spirals.
about.
Yep, and stuff we've talked about before. So that's that one.
Thanks, Doug. TBear, what do you think, man?
Well, I do have something to think about this or say about this. The one thing about sims, I think they're an awesome additional training. One of the slippery slopes we always were concerned about was sim time replacing actual jet time. And there is no way you can do that. You have to feel the G's, fly the airplane, have a threat of actually dying while you're flying. And you just have to experience that. There's no other way around that. I don't know, maybe put a little taser in the seat or something.
when you injected in, was it the A10 sim or was it the gun? The one in New Orleans, when it had a seat vibrator, it had that butt kicker.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Gun, but I had when I went to F-16 school, when you would get hit with an air-to-air missile, it would hit you in the bottom of the seat.
Yeah, it had the butt kicker.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is sims are really good for practicing things that you just are very difficult to reproduce out in the air. Because like SAM threats, and you go out and getting something on your raw gear and being able to look outside and see something, you can't really replicate that out on the range, but in a sim you can. And also for big packages, so to speak, with the was it DTS they call it? I can't remember the term, but where they link them all together, you could have a 4-ship movie. And, it gives you an opportunity to very cheaply fly a big package, strike package that otherwise you would have to deploy airplanes over to Nellis or something for, and so it's great for that, but you just have to make sure you don't hit the slippery slope of it replacing flight time. And the other thing they do is they make your flight time more productive, because if you can go practice it in the sim and then go fly it, your learning curve is much steeper that way. And like I'm teaching a guy to do is I'm working on a guy's instrument rating right now, and we're trying to fly ILSs, and he keeps dorking the same thing up over and over and over and over, and every time he dorks it up, it's a wasted 15 minutes around the pattern. Where if I had him in a sim, I could just IC him back out 5 miles back and start over. And if you could get it right in the sim, then when you go get in the airplane, the potential for him to screw that up is much less. So the benefit of flying the approach is it's more efficient. So yeah, I think sims are a big deal, and certainly something we should have, but I don't think they ever should replace flying time.
They're good part task trainers. If you want either, like you said, to practice one thing over and over and over again, get a bunch of reps. When we went out, before we had the Link Sims, you're welcome, Homestead, by the way. Before we had the Link Sims, we had to go places because they were hard to find. And you could put a 4-ship, 4 dudes linked in a 4-ship and go practice from the commit to point X to picture clean over and over and over, instead of having to reset, put the red air guys back in the, the red air safe area, reset the picture, all that stuff. So you were able to get more reps and not burn a bunch of gas. But like you're talking about, TBear, it's not the same as going out and pulling G's and feeling what the jet's doing and worrying about, am I going to actually hit somebody? Am I going to hit my wingman? Am I going to hit the red air? Am I going to get out of my block? All the stuff that you think about when your mind, because I think when we go into a simulator, our mind goes, well, I'm sitting here at 1G. I know this is not a threat. Nothing I do is going to think. And that actually, to me, is can be bad if you try to replace flight time, because I think it takes away that fear of death. And then you get that bad habit pattern of, well, I'm just, nothing ever happens here. He resets it about this point. No, I'm in a real airplane now. This is bad.
Yeah. I think the article was also mentioning the fact that, like with the B1, the B-52 and the B2, that the airplanes have developed, like the sim doesn't reflect the airplane very well. And like when they sent me to learn the T-38, they sent me to I went and learned the T-38C. I got like literally okay, good to go. I don't know how many hours I got, 10, whatever it was. And then I went to our operational squadron that flew T-38A, different cockpit, and I was lost in the sauce. So I can see how, if the Air Force doesn't have enough money to update the cockpits of the sims, I've never seen the inside of the B1, B2, or B-52, but I imagine those airplanes are a little more like an airliner, and if you don't have the right things to push buttons, because that's how you fly those planes a lot, it can be a challenge, So I agree with you guys totally. You can't replace flight time with sim time, and they have their place. But I think especially with big airplanes that, like in the civilian side, the airliner sims are pretty real, because they don't really have to simulate a lot of G's or maneuvering, just basic flying around.
And the article did talk about bombers. Like one of the biggest things was B1, B2, B-52, all that stuff. It wasn't specifically fighters.
Right. And I would imagine, the bombers, you should be able to have a pretty darn realistic, what are they, level D mover, level C, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the highest fidelity full motion sim that you can get. So I would think they should have some pretty good stuff, but apparently they don't.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not surprised.
B-52 is not very good at Barksdale, I know.
Have you been in it, TBear?
I haven't been in it, but the guy I used to work with had to go fly that every few months, and it was not very good. But one thing, we used to kind of have a rule on OFPs that it would go in the sim before it went in the airplane.
Yeah.
And so that you could actually go in there and get your hands on it in the sim before you put it in the airplane. And that was important.
Yeah, I remember that. As a guy who did a lot of sim stuff, it was always the sim got it first, and then the airplane, like months. It wasn't even close. Doug, I want to bring you into this too, because I think one of the risks is the negative training. And when you like iRacing, we see this a lot in iRacing. You see people doing things that they might not necessarily do in a real car.
Yep. I see people doing things that would never work in real life. And it's a little bit different because it's a multiplayer situation, but as long as they're doing it wrong better than everybody else, they think they're doing it right.
Yeah.
Called a simism.
And that's not to say, Air Force, we have structured in training and we do understand, but how many times has something worked or not worked in the sim and you're like, well, that's not like this. Just the bad habit transfer from something that might not be 100% to something else, because you might gain a bad habit pattern. So sometimes it is worse.
My 30 years of muscle memory are completely useless to me in iRacing. I'm much better at oval, which I learned in the sim, than I am at road racing, which I learned in real life.
Well, Gonky knows this because he's obviously an expert at DCS.
I can fly a jet into the ground in DCS like nobody's business, dude. Record time.
Gonky, there was a comment a while ago. I was like, I see why he's not in the Navy anymore. I'm like, dude, because it had nothing to do with flying video games. That's why.
Real life is so much harder.
Conquer says, thoughts on the F-16 XL better than the F-15E? I don't know.
That was a long time ago.
I don't know
cool
about
looking
fictional aircraft. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Block 70 with the conformal fuel tanks looks really cool.
Yeah, the XL mover was the one with the huge wing.
Yeah.
It had the huge, it was like almost a Delta wing, wasn't it, TBear?
Yeah, it was a Delta wing. I think it was wasn't that like a NASA test thing?
Yeah.
If it was ever Air Force thing or not.
I remember they did choose the F-15E over the F-16 XL. It was like the bid for the strike.
They were going to use it was a big Delta Wing thing if I remember right.
I know nothing, but I do have a picture. Hold on. I just did the Googles.
I thought it was a cool looking airplane.
Yeah. It's going to be red, white, and blue when he puts it up, I bet.
Yeah.
So. Is it red, white, blue?
There it is.
I think that's cool looking.
Kind of looks like a Tomcat.
Tomcat.
Like the Tomcat? Doesn't it look like a Tomcat there?
Yeah, minus the vertical stab, the other engine.
Forget everything except for the cockpit. The cockpit looks like a Tomcat with one tail.
And no canopy bow. Mover, come on. That's a cool looking airplane, man. Maybe
start to see things where they aren't there.
All right. You want to see Tomcat. I get it, dude. I do too.
NG Pyro. TBear, is this your buddy? He's a Fred driver here. Love the show. Fred is the C5, right? Fred and Barney?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it always makes me feel good when real pilots watch the show and they like it, because then I feel a little bit
validated.
A little bit like, okay, so we're not totally.
Skid's watching. Shanghai's watching. I mean, come on.
Totally watches sometimes.
There you go.
Aaron's back and says, when I started my PPL at 16, I spent hours in FSX. When I got in a 172 to start flying, I was so cocky. I told my flight instructor, I got this. I've never eaten my words harder. They can help you learn, but sims are not experience. I will say DCS to some degree in the Huey helped me when I went to the helicopter. Like just that little bit of, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but the general concept helped me a little bit with the helicopter. So, I mean, it has its place. It's not something that I would replace anything with, but okay. I think that's it. We'll skip the JetBlue thing. We've got voice messages, which I think is.
Oh God.
We're gonna start with the serious ones before we get to if we get to that. This one comes from Chili. Let us begin.
Good evening, gentlemen. I've just got a quick couple of questions if you've got a moment. First up, how much do you as the pilot feel movement-wise when you fire or release any of your weapons? And secondly, how much does the aircraft movement vary with regard to the smaller or lighter loads versus bigger, heavier stuff being released? Thanks very much for your time. Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, it's
I've
stuck
just
in a
got
loop.
a quick
Hold
couple
on.
of questions if you've got a moment.
Sorry, the Margot Robbie question got stuck in a loop. Gonky, TBear, somebody.
TBear, you first.
I'm so distracted right now. What?
The gun on the A-10, you feel it under your feet because it's a big, heavy piece of machinery rotating, and also fairly decent amount of recoil. So you do feel that. Bombs on the A-10 are just a clunk. Maverick missiles on the A-10's a bunch of noise. I don't really feel anything. The Sidewinder off the A-10, nothing really, just a noise. Mark 84 is off F-16, big clunk, wings kind of shake. You know,
the Payboy 3, GB-24.
That's kind of what I think. I mean, I think probably the most noticeable thing's the gun in the A-10.
Yeah. I remember the first bomb it's just a 500-pounder, just in training, and when I was in the RAG, and you know they never breathe. Like, I don't know. It's I guess it's a non-topic, but I remember when I rolled in and when the bomb came off. I mean, it made a noise, and for a second I was like, what happened to the wing? You know, I looked over there, and we were all good. But yeah, the airplane, the bigger the bomb, the more you could feel it come off. And the Hornet being, all auto trim and stuff, it probably took some of the feel away that you would feel in any other airplane. But and then the gun, it's just like pulling the trigger on a chainsaw. I mean, it's in front of you, but you can feel it vibrate. And then I shot a Sidewinder, and it sounded exactly like a bottle rocket.
Yeah.
Like exactly.
I
Like
thought when I shot it, it went into the water because it took off and went down. I'm like, oh boy.
yeah, but doesn't it sound like a bot? I was amazed how clearly through the canopy, and it's out there on the wing, I could hear like the propellant coming out. I mean, I have earplugs in, helmet, canopy. I don't know how many feet, but I mean, it was cool. But yeah,
But then real rockets are kind of a smaller version of that. Like they're a lot more muffled.
I never shot real like you shot like the Zunies.
No, 2.75s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my Finney flight, I shot rockets in the gun, all 500 plus rounds.
In the F-16?
Yeah.
You guys carried rockets in the F-16?
Avon Park. Yep.
No kidding. That's awesome. That's one thing I always wanted to do in the Hornet was shoot rockets.
It was fun because then you can ripple them, but they would hang. That was the thing, is if you went too fast or you tried to do too many, they would hang.
How did you aim? Just with the gun reticle or
CCRP or CCIP? Either one would do it. TBear,
were they accurate?
Yeah.
Very accurate. I mean,
yeah.
I know the A-10, we would use the CCRP rocket delivery on it, and you could loft the rockets about 7 miles out and using the CCRP. And when you got to the target, it was obscured with rocket smoke.
Really?
It was very, very accurate.
Because it outruns you and you're just out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the pods, you can put the pod in ripple. You could set the switch in ripple, or you could set the system. I remember one day I went out for some little firepower demo with the Army, and I had 4 rocket pods, and they were all in ripple, and they were all set to shoot at the same time. So I guess I shot 28 rockets at one time, and probably 4 of them hung up in there.
Well, TBear, even since we've been flying, I mean, in the last 10 years, the APIC rocket has become a thing, and that thing is surgical. I mean, I've the only place I've experienced it obviously is DCS, but I've talked to people that have shot it, and you're talking, you go back to the CAS argument, you're talking the dude on the little moped, you're taking him out with the rocket, because for those that don't know, the APIC is the 2.75 millimeter rocket with a laser tracker, and whatever your targeting pod's looking at, you're lasing, and it goes right to that dude, or gender neutral. It'll take out whatever you want.
Whoever you want.
Yeah. Whomever.
Whomever.
But it's definitely, cool technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for the
retrofitted to all the old 2.75 rocket bodies you have, because it just replaces the front end.
Yeah. Really cool. This next one is about recruiting. I don't know who it's from. Hold on.
What's up, Mover? What's up, Gonky? Just wanted to talk about the recruiting problem that you guys talked about on the podcast. I think it's a mental problem, not a physical problem. Yes, there are physical problems in this country, but I think the sense of civic duty is lost in my generation. I'm 18. I've wanted to join the Marine Corps since I was 10 years old. I've worked very hard at staying fit, staying active, looking very good for a officer selection board. I broke my wrist, but I was able to heal and recover and get a waiver for it. So I have that love for my country that I want to serve for it, and I could potentially die doing it. And I'm content with that. You guys made that choice of, I could potentially die what I'm doing, but it's for the greater good and I'm protecting my country. And my generation doesn't have that anymore. Love the podcast, boys, and see you guys next week.
Hell yeah. I feel like there was a knife hand throughout the entire thing. TBear, he hit on everything you've ever said. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what more can I say? I mean,
just say it all again. Just use your voice.
Dude, it's a calling, and it's not for everybody. And unfortunately, as our generations have moved on, we've gotten less and less people in each one of those generations that have that calling. And like I always go back to World War II guys, those dudes saved the world, and they were fighting to sign up to go fight. And then as you moved on, you get Vietnam. You still had the guys that were joining up to defend the country, and of course people drafted who ended up there. But you still had the people that were trying to join up and go. And then, my generation, it was a lot of people were signing up to defend their country. And you see, as you get into the more entitled, and it's somebody else's job is what it comes down to. Somebody else has to take care of me. I don't need to go put myself at risk. And I think, like the guy hit, I think he hit on the head that younger generations just don't understand the meaning of freedom. If you can be alive, but maybe not quite as free, they think that's okay. And then that just keeps getting whittled away at a little bit at a time, until, you don't have any more freedom. And it takes dudes that look at that and go, no, we need to defend our country. We need to fight for what's right. And somebody's got to do it. And that's, I don't look down at anybody that chooses not to do that, because that's just them. But thankfully, there are a lot of young men and women out there that do have the calling to defend their country. Just unfortunately, they probably took ADHD medicine.
Oh yeah. Hey, Luna.
Yeah, Doug, do you remember? Or Doug, TBear, do you remember when I was finally selected? So after all that, I went through a student hire and Katrina and all that stuff, and I was finally selected, and they said, hey, here's your pilot slot. You're going to OTS or whatever. And there was this point where I had to make the decision, because it's not real until you have to make that decision. But I went back and forth. I'm like, I don't know if I really, is this really what I want? And do you remember what you told me? How to make that decision?
Was it about the flying versus not flying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I said, well, what happens if I can't fly? What happens if, all the waivers and stuff that I got for vision, what if that all comes back and I'm not going to be able to fly? You remember what you told me about sitting on my back porch?
Yeah. I said the litmus test to this whole thing is, if you weren't signing up to fly, would you still sign up? And that's the real answer there, because and I keep telling people that want to join to be pilots, I always say that over and over. Would you join if you couldn't be a pilot? And if the answer to that's yes, then go ahead and join up, because it means you have that calling to defend your country. If the answer is like, oh, if I can't fly, I don't want to join, then you're probably not the right guy. And I know we get a lot of people that are in like that, and they end up being okay. But to me, the base foundation of why they're there is not correct. Because I didn't know if I was going to be able to fly in the Air Force, but I wanted to join. I wanted to do whatever I could do. I actually called them up and I said, what can I do for the Air Force Reserve? Because I was getting in a reserve unit. And it just so happens they go, well, you want to fly jets? So, and I just honestly believe that, because you can't really join. It has to be an unselfish thing. You can't join for something you're going to get out of it. You have to join because it's my calling to go keep this country free and protect the people that don't have the calling. I don't see anything negative about those folks. It's not for them.
I'm going to take this full circle with the leadership thing we talked about last week, because I think, TBear, the people that join for their own selfish reasons are the people that then try to promote for their own selfish reasons. And then they become the people in power with their own selfish reasons. And they have no servant leadership. They have no leadership. They're just managers. And it's what can I do to protect myself?
Yep.
And that permeates your entire career.
Yeah. And that has definitely changed. Because, you look back at, you look back at Robin Olds, you want to talk about a leader. A man like that went over there and led that squadron. That's the kind of leaders we need. Unfortunately, a guy like him today would get an Article 15 or letter of reprimand and run out as a lieutenant, probably.
Sure would.
I love the voice message, but what I'd like to hear more of and see more of is kids like this that are 18 and got the fire in their belly. I love it. I think it's great. But I'd love to see them inspiring their peers. I would love to see them trying to lift their peers up, to cooperate, to graduate, to help show them the path and show them the true meaning and to show them the way they think versus, I think this is the reason why, but also try to help out. I think
he sounds like a
lead
pretty
by example.
He sounds like a pretty squared away. I mean, the two things. If he would have never said it, and you'd be like, "What branch you think this young man's going to try to go to?" Oh, he's a
knife hand. There was a knife hand.
Yeah, he's a Marine, hands down, dude.
He was knife handing throughout that entire thing.
But honestly, like thinking through it, that's why the Marines didn't miss their quota, is because like you can a Marine, their brand or the people they attract are they're a certain kind of person, and in my mind a good person, somebody who wants to serve and is not selfish, wants to be a part of something bigger and better. But I would argue, man, a guy like him, if he's 18 years old and he's staying fit and he's keeping his stuff together, other people are going to notice that, and they're going to they're like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" "I want to be a Marine." "Why do you want to be a Marine?" And then he can go into his his reasons why in it. And I think that would inspire people, because I remember when I was in school younger, I was part of, not everybody went to college, some people went to the military, and it was always like, "What are you going to do in the Air Force, man? What are you going to do in the Army?" And they would tell you, and it was interesting to me, because I didn't know, and we'd have the recruiters come and talk. So I think that's a little bit of just leading by example does go a long way even today.
Awesome. All right, let's move on. We're already keeping TBear way past his bedtime.
Good luck, pal, by the way. That's awesome.
Yeah. We got two things. Luna Rinka is chewing my arm but says hello. That's the pup in the picture.
That's the dog.
Awesome. Cute puppy. Chili says, "Thanks for answering my voice questions. I appreciate it." Thanks, Chili.
Got it. Yeah, man.
And that is Aussie. She's got the thing there. And then Rob just says hello. So thanks, moving Rob. On to the mental health minute. This week, the mental health minute is about accepting failure. And we talk about make them tell you no. We talk about failure is not an option. But we don't talk about what happens when you do fail, or what happens when you're obsessed with not failing. And that was something that affected me. I was very fortunate to go through pilot training and do really well, to the point that I did not bust a single ride through the entire time of pilot training. And I really didn't even know it until the day of graduation. Like, "Hey, you did well. Here's some rewards." I'm like, "Really? Me?" And that got into my head, because then you get this, I need to be perfect. I've never experienced failure. I need to be perfect. I can't make any mistakes. And when I went to Intro to Fighter Fundamentals at the time, it was known as a washout program, or several people were going, not like TBear's day, but still to the point that people accepted IFF was something that you could wash out and not go to fighters. And I allowed that to get into my head, thinking that not only was I going to start busting rides and ruin that perfect reputation, but also might even wash out. And that actually caused me to make mistakes, because I was so afraid of that vulnerability, and I was so afraid of ruining that perfect record. And it permeates throughout your career. If you're not willing to make mistakes, you're never going to learn. And for me, it was a lesson to learn there. But even throughout my career, once you have this idea that, hey, I can't make mistakes because people will judge me, well, then you're not allowing yourself to grow. You're not allowing yourself to get better, because you think failure is not an option. In training and in parts of life, failure is kind of the only option. We train to failure when we go to the gym. We go to failure so that we can have debrief focus points in whatever we're doing, our sortie. So by allowing ourselves to push to the point that we fail, we then grow and get better. And I think that's something that we need to emphasize, that while failure may not be an option in certain things like recovering an emergency or war, in other places, it's good, and it's the only way we'll ever grow. TBear, what do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. I don't have much to add to that, except I do want to tie it into your leadership thing a while ago, because that's the problem right now with a lot of the leadership in the Air Force is, it's just don't let something happen on my watch so I can get promoted to the next thing. And they're unwilling to make changes, unwilling to do things because they're afraid of failing. And that's not a good thing, and yeah, you go back and, I always go back in history, go back to like Jimmy Doolittle, man. He was such an innovator. He got court-martialed, and
Right.
if you have leaders like that, that's how you take chances, and that's how you improve. And failure, you can never really, other than killing yourself, I mean, you can't let failure be the driving factor when you're trying to do things. It can't. Particularly in peacetime training. I mean, yeah, you have to accept that I might screw this up. I might fail. What do? We debrief it, and then we try to do it better next time. And that's how you learn. And yeah, that's about all. I think you pretty much put it together really well there.
Gonky.
Yeah, Mover, I don't have a ton to add. I just maybe two things. The obviously, accepting failure, we talking like big things or little things, but overall, and I've had to come to terms with this sometimes, not every opportunity is for you, kind of thing, so just because you start down a path, and I believe, in God and higher power. I'm a Christian, so I think sometimes God uses failure as a way to close the door if you're not going down the path he intends you to go. But that's just me. But and a lot of times, it's like, I ride and race motorcycles a little bit, dirt bikes, and if you're not crashing every once in a while, you're not riding hard enough.
Mhm.
It's kind of the in any kind of performance driven, if we're talking like military aviation or any kind of athletic sport, you want to be on the edge, pushing that envelope further and further and further. And the way you do that is, you take a little bit of risk, you take a little bit of chance, and then when you do fail, you have to accept it, learn from it, not do it again. Right. So there's a lot of learning to be done there. But I mean, other than that, Mover, you summed it up. Pretty much, I don't have anything else to add, man. It's good.
Gonky, you bring up a good point in that for the discussion, it's how you reframe things. When you fail, when you bust a ride, this is something that I never got through my career, and I wish I had. Looking back, I wish I had understood this better. You're afraid of busting a ride, right? You don't want to get the taco, the unsat, or the down, or whatever, Air Force versus Navy. You don't want to get that because you don't want the red ink on your grade sheet saying, because you're making it personal. You're internalizing this saying, I'm a bad person, when the reality is you just got another paid flight by Uncle Sam to go do it again and get better. You just got another opportunity to go master your craft and to go out there and be a better fighter pilot. And that was something I never really got.
Yeah, so I actually saw this a lot as an IP. So there were, and TBear, you've probably seen this too, because you got more flight experience than I think me and Mover combined. But the guys and gals who, like, early on, it just seemed to come natural to them. When they finally hit something that was hard, they had no idea how to handle it, because they're like, wait a minute, this has been easy. What, but the people who have always had to work at it, and every once in a while might fail at something. I actually thought that they became better pilots because they knew how to handle a setback. And I think especially in any kind of war fighting, you can have the best plan in the world. T-Bear, I'll tell you, you have the best plan in the world. You go into real combat, something goes sideways. I mean, you need to know how to recover from that. If your plan doesn't work, that is a failure. What do? We can't just, hit pause and cry and, oh, woe is me. So there is, I'm not saying fail every single ride, but it does, that adversity early on, especially early on, I think a little bit of toughness helps. And, Wombat's a great example of that, because he had a lot of trouble up front in training. I was right there with him, with his air sickness, and that affected everything. And it made him very resilient because, throughout his career, and he had a good career. So, but yeah.
TBear, do you know that story? He was in a loop doing puking in a bag while performing a loop in a tweet. That's the toughness of this guy. But you bring up Wombat. Deuce, another friend of the channel, had his struggles. Now, granted, he did really well. Obviously, he got fighters as an active duty guy, but he struggled in various places, and he became a weapons school instructor pilot. He's now an instructor pilot in the F-35. It forges a much stronger personality. And if you're afraid of failing, you won't take the risks. You won't put yourself out there because you're trying to protect that perfect record.
So he hit the key word, resilience. And that's what it builds. Is it makes a resilient person. One of the things, though, and Mover, your example is a lot of fighter guys. They go a long time without failing at anything. Yeah. And when it does happen, it is crushing initially. But then, once you realize that you're not the perfect guy, you get into the mode and get a little resilience. And I can see exactly what Gonky's talking about, where the dudes that have to struggle a little bit, they're tougher and they get tougher quicker. And sometimes later on, it's a harder lesson to learn later on, when you're a weapons school guy and start failing.
But I think that's where we tie in the mental health minute. How this is mental health is the resilience piece of this. Anything in life, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And when you do, don't internalize it and think that it's something personal against you. This is just a lesson. Take it as a lesson, take it for what it is, and move on. Find the lessons that you can extract from it, just like we do in a debrief. Apply it to the next time you try or the next thing you do. And don't worry about that perfect record, because if you look at any success story, look at Elon Musk. How many rockets did he blow up? How many rockets? I mean, how close did he get to bankruptcy before becoming, I think, is he the richest man in the world now, or one of the richest in the world? How many rockets did he blow up trying to do that? And now, I mean, did you ever think you would see a rocket land on a drone ship by itself? Like, that's the craziest thing to me. And it came with taking risks and accepting the fact that I'm going to fail. Sometimes it's not going to work out. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person or a bad pilot or a bad anything. It just means I needed to learn this lesson. I didn't meet the standard. Next time I'm going to meet the standard. And I'll go back to standard pitch every single time. If you are struggling with something and you've internalized this, take a step back, talk to somebody, get the help that you need. 988, local law enforcement, emergency rooms, counselors, chaplains, talk to somebody. Don't internalize this. Don't let it build up to the point that it manifests itself in a place that you're going to make national news. That's it. Douglas, what do you have to add? You always wrap this up for us.
No, this is going to be tougher than ever. You guys keep raising the bar. I feel obligated every time to try to use a word that'll make Gonky's eyebrows go up. So I'm gonna say success is iterative.
2 syllables.
Right. Well, iterative. Success is iterative. And in my business, we say C's get degrees.
Yeah.
A lot of A students come in, and just like Gonky said, and that was me in graduate school. I cruised all the way through high school. I cruised through undergrad. When I hit graduate school, I didn't know how to do anything, and the people who had struggled the whole time taught me. So
yeah. OTS. You know what they say about the first and last graduate?
Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Or ensign.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. The plaque for the alternate doesn't matter where it is.
Ladies' room.
Well, in 1980, 86, it might have been there. Now it's in the. Never mind. All right, let's before we get canceled. Yeah, Kate says, TBear, I love listening to you. That's why we brought him on, because
that's right. We do too, actually. That's why he's here.
Yeah. Aaron says
I just like getting to see you two guys again.
Oh, hey, by the way, Heat said hello, and said it was awesome that you guys were together, all of us together. So. Aaron says, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. He who dares wins.
Yeah.
Cluterus says, if Robin Olds is the champion of the Air Force, who do Navy aviators look up to? Gonky.
The person in the mirror, to be honest. No, just I don't know. I was always a Duke Cunningham fan, right? He was the last Navy jet ace. When I was a kid growing up, you know, they did I don't know if it's PBS, Discovery, whatever. I watched the whole documentary about him becoming an ace, and he was always my hero. When I became a F-18 pilot, just to make the 1v1s fun, my scenario was I was always Colonel Toon, and because I'm part Vietnamese, and you know, the other guy was Duke, and I would have my draw up my scenario on the board, and we would go. So I mean, that's who I looked up to as a fighter pilot in the Navy. But there's a lot to choose from. So
yeah, don't lie,
Really?
Gonky. It's Maverick.
probably Maverick too.
Yeah,
Maverick.
it's Maverick. It's a fictional. The Navy has no. It's all.
I
fiction.
just told you a real
Yeah,
Navy hero,
sure,
dude.
sure,
There's tons
sure.
of them.
You're just making stuff up now, Gonky.
No
Garrett
hair.
says,
It's like,
Oh,
Garrett
look at
says,
this.
I am the Marine guy in the voice message. I try to promote the military, but people
There you go,
around me
Garrett.
don't see it the way I do. It is sad, but I love my country. Hell
that's
yeah.
all right. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Just keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing.
You will eventually be with like-minded people. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
And you don't know who you're influencing.
Yeah, no, good
Keep it
job,
up.
man. Ethan says we learn more from our failures than our successes.
That's true.
100%. Aaron says, I assume Navy pilots looked up to Maverick until they saw his mission planning skills.
True. Oh, it's bad.
If it's stupid and it works, is it still stupid?
No, it's brilliant.
I mean, look at it, dude. He got a Tomcat out of the deal.
He did. He did. He returned one to the taxpayer, 1 for 1. Right?
Yeah, he lost a $80 million Super Hornet and gained a $100,000 Tomcat from
With no nose gear.
Iran. Yeah,
He left
that
the
was
nose gear.
never flyable again. It was terrible, terrible. Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else for you guys. TBear, parting thoughts.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I
hanging
enjoyed
out with
being
us,
here.
man.
I see you,
Hell yeah.
TBear.
I've been putting you off because I've been kind of busy spraying all summer, but glad I made it.
Semis, cotton balers, you know. It's like busy. I'm busy, boy.
Busy missing all those things.
That's right.
Tree bear. How many trees have you hit?
It's like 4, maybe more actually. I mean,
And
that's
how do you know when you hit them?
The branch.
oh well.
You bring it
Most
back,
of the
dude.
time, it's pretty evident. One thing I've hit a couple, and I've taken the nav light off the airplane, and didn't even know I hit the tree. Come back, nav light's missing. So I figured that, but no, 2 of them I hit pretty solidly.
Wow. Janitor is back. Happy birthday to his Korean War vet.
Oh, that's
dad.
awesome.
Oh,
That's
awesome!
awesome. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yep, happy birthday.
That
Hope
is
you had an awesome day.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Great. Look at the heroes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Heroes, the generation. But you know, we have ours too. I mean, look at all the Medal of Honor winners in the last 20 years that have
Yeah.
done some amazing
Oh, yeah.
things in OIF, OEF. I mean, dude, they still exist. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
focus a little bit too much on the negative. So
What's his name on the top of the mountain there? That guy
Chapman.
Chapman, dude, he essentially got 2 Medal of Honors on that
Yeah.
hill in the same day.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good point about CSAR though. CSAR is such an important mission. I don't know what would replace the A-10 for that.
I am concerned.
Yeah. Ethan says TBear's tree trimming and crop dusting service.
$1.99. It's a special.
Luckily, I haven't
Thanks,
hit
Ethan.
one in a couple of years. So
Let's knock on some wood there. It's well, the night is
I
still
hit nothing this year, by the way,
Good. That's what we want to
Yeah.
hear, TBear.
except
Yeah.
a few birds.
well. All right. Douglas, you got anything for the kids at home before we wrap this up?
I have nothing further.
Gonky?
No, it's awesome as always. Looking forward to next week there, Mover.
I'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching.
See you guys. Have a good
TBear,
night.
Thanks for being a part of this. We really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Well,
Heck
We'll see
yeah.
you next time.